With the final deadlocked, Hayato burst down the wing, the ball a blur at his feet. On the sideline, Yoshihiro's lips moved in a dark chant the crowd couldn't hear. A soundless shockwave erupted. The referee's whistle froze in midair. All noise ceased. Hayato's sprint became stone, his leg, the ball, his defiant expression, all locked in the instant.
I can still think. Every thought burns. But my body won't move an inch. This isn't normal.
50,000 people stood frozen, their cheers cut off, faces masks of shock. Yoshihiro lowered his hand, a cold grin on his face. The spell was seamless. No one suspected him. The world had become a silent painting, but Hayato's mind was awake, alone and screaming inwardly.
This has to be a curse. The kind they say is forbidden. The kind whispered about in the training ground. Shadows.
Inside the bubble of frozen time, a boy who should have been stopped began to fight the silence. The medics who sprinted onto the pitch were caught mid-rush, their equipment floating, faces frozen in alarm.
No one moving. No one breathing. I am the only soul awake in this entire stadium.
On the sideline, Yoshihiro's expression was locked into a mask of cold triumph, his spell complete.
He planned this. That noble heir used a forbidden curse just to stop me. Why?
In the stands, his parents were two statues of grief, a mother's hand outstretched, a father's jaw tight.
I can't even look at them properly, but my mind is free. I have to use this.
Hayato's awareness strained against the bubble, then slipped past its wall like a ghost through glass. He found the player tunnel where tactical boards hung unchanged, every chalk line a story frozen in time.
All these strategies, I could master them. If time won't move, I will.
And so, in the stillness of the cursed instant, the first day of his 1,000-year training began. His consciousness glided through the concrete catacombs, past frozen attendants and silent locker rooms, each board a sealed archive.
If I press my will against those diagrams, the tactical genius of decades might pour into me.
The instant his focus touched a formation blueprint, blue threads burst from the chalk and burrowed into his memory.
This curse isn't just a prison, it's a reservoir of suspended time, and I can drink from it.
He settled into a meditative trance, drawing the bubble's pale glow into his spectral chest with each phantom breath.
My mind stays sharp, fed by the very sorcery that froze me. I won't lose myself.
Time dissolved. In the endless stillness, he carved a mental training ground, grass, goal, and infinite field.
This is my dojo now. I'll run, cut, and drill until I am faster than thought.
A ghost of a football materialized at his feet, and for the first time in captivity, he began to move, and so began the first decade of a solitary training that would stretch across 1,000 years. Year after year, his mind consumed every chalked line, defensive rotations, pressing traps, the geometry of 7,000 set plays.
I don't just remember them. I dream every angle, every countermove.
At last, he attempted a feint no diagram taught, a step so fast it left a phantom double in the still air.
It worked! My first real technique, a ghost step no defender could read.
He named it Phantom Step and drilled it 10,000 times until the motion etched itself into his bones. When he finally paused, a century had dissolved. A dusty reflection showed hair grown wild and pale blue embers in his eyes.
This body hasn't aged a day outside, but inside, I've lived 100 years.
He raised a hand to the glass. The stranger's stare unblinking.
But there's no end to this. A century is only the start. If I break, the curse wins. I'll train until I am unbeatable.
The silver-haired figure in the bubble straightened, new light burning behind ancient eyes. Centuries blurred into each other, marked only by the slow crawl of seasons through a painted window.
Why am I still here? The silence is eating my thoughts. Nothing replies. Nothing replies. Nothing.
In the 300th year, Madness claimed him. He struck walls, howled at frozen gods, and collapsed in bitter laughter.
Let me out. Someone. Anyone. Just one voice. Please.
In a frenzy of movement, his footwork multiplied. 3 phantom balls spun from one, a trick born of fractured focus.
Even broken, my body remembers the goal. This could be a weapon.
He fell to his knees afterward, the weight of centuries finally crushing him. Tears fell for an hour.
I'll call it Echo Touch. It'll be the second of many. I won't stop. I can't.
Time passed, and with it, the scar tissue hardened. Hayato drilled Echo Touch until it was as natural as breathing. The silver-haired ghost of the tunnel rose again, hollowed but not broken, and returned to the silent field. Visions surfaced unbidden. His mother placing a plate, his father nodding at his academy badge, all frozen, unreachable.
I'd trade it all for one more dinner with them, but I can't. I'll forge this ache into a proud legacy.
From the deepest shadow of the tunnel, he wove a third style, Shadow Weave, his steps left flickering after images that melted into darkness.
Phantom, Step, Echo Touch, and now Shadow Weave. 3 keys to unlock any defense, but who will I use them on?
He then codified the absolute position system, a mental map predicting every movement of all 22 players at once.
With this, I could orchestrate an entire match alone. But it's all theory. There's no one to test it against.
Yet in a shard of mirror, the eyes staring back weren't a prodigy's. They were a 1,000-year abyss.
What if I am trapped forever? What if all this genius rots in this silent prison?
The weight of that thought bent his shoulders. He leaned against the cold concrete, the bubble's glow pulsing weakly. Still, he didn't fall. The 3 styles were his testament, and he clung to them like a dying man. In that hour of despair, a faint tremor rippled across the bubble's surface, something he'd never seen before.
It weakened. After all these centuries, the curse is decaying. I can feel it.
He reached out with his mind and pulled at the temporal energy, drinking it like water after a decade of thirst.
If I drain enough, the bubble will shatter. But if I take too much, it might crush me.
He siphoned faster. Hair-thin cracks spidered across the crystalline wall with audible groans, the sound of fracturing glass, a sound that hadn't existed for a millennium, echoed in his ears.
I'm close. I can almost feel the outside air. I will break free.
He drilled all 3 styles with savage repetition, honing them until they were less technique than instinct.
When this curse breaks, I'll be ready. I've spent 1,000 years preparing for one moment.
The cracks widened. The bubble hummed with unstable light. Hayato stood at the edge, heart pounding for the first time in centuries. A millennium of silence finally touched the door. On a stone tablet in his mental chamber, the 1,000th tally was carved.
1,000 years. The boy who entered this curse is a stranger now. I am someone else entirely.
He allowed himself one final vision, his younger self in a red jersey, eyes bright, sprinting without weight.
Goodbye, Hayato of the Amateur League. I'll carry your dream. But I can't be you. Not anymore.
The curse wall thinned to glass. For the first time in an eon, the stadium lights pierced the bubble and touched his skin.
I see them, Yoshihiro's frozen sneer, the referee's hand, the ball. I am coming back, but when I step out, I must hide everything. No one can know a millennium sat in this body.
Hayato exhaled a breath he'd held for centuries. The air outside tasted electric.
This is the moment. I've trained through madness and grief for this. Now, break.
The bubble groaned in reply, its entire surface crazing over. A millennium of training compressed into one heartbeat. The bubble imploded. Shards of frozen time scattered, each reflecting 1,000 years of memory. His mother, his madness, his 3 styles.
I am out. 2 seconds passed. The world is still frozen, but my body is free.
He landed onto the grass, the ball still at his feet, and his sprint resumed as if it had never stopped.
The defenders are statues. I see their every muscle locked. They can't match me.
Hayato glided past one, then two, their frozen forms no more than obstacles in a training drill.
Phantom step. The first of many. I'll break their defense before they know I am gone.
Echo touch left 3 after images flaring in his wake. The defender's eyes couldn't even register the motion. The goalkeeper loomed, a frozen guardian. Hayato's mind calculated the exact trajectory.
This is my last free breath. The moment I score, the world will change.
He pulled back his foot, the ball humming with potential energy. The stadium was about to awaken. His foot connected, and the ball vanished. An instant later, the net bulged with a thunderous crack that split the silence. For 1 heartbeat, not a soul breathed. Then the stadium erupted, a wave of noise that shook the concrete.
I did it. The goal, the match, but something is wrong. The air is heavy, like a snapped thread.
On the sideline, Yoshihiro's triumphant smirk froze, then twisted. His raised hand began to gray and flake away.
No, the feedback. The curse is devouring me. My body.
Before anyone could react, his entire form collapsed into a column of dust. The uniform crumpled empty onto the grass. The stadium screens replayed the impossible goal, but the crowd's roar fractured. Whispers of horror replaced the cheers. Hayato stood near the goal line, the weight of 1,000 years suddenly heavy on his shoulders.
The curse didn't just break, it bounced back at him. I didn't just win, I erased him.
A goal, a death, and a secret no one could ever know. The game had barely resumed, but Hayato's real match had just begun. The stadium screens replayed the goal in ultra-slow motion. Commentators stammered between exhilaration and disbelief.
Officials are already swarming that pile of dust. They'll start asking questions I can't answer. If they link my speed to the curse, I won't just be suspended. I'll become a weapon or a lab rat. The only way out is through a career-ending injury. No one chases a retired cripple.
Hayato's leg buckled with a sharp cry. He collapsed, clutching his ankle, face twisted in an agony that was pure acting. Medics swarmed from the bench, while the stretcher bounced across the turf. The crowd's roar dulled to confused muttering. As they lifted him, the coach hurried over. Hayato grabbed his sleeve and forced a whisper through gritted teeth. "I am done. This leg won't hold. Retire me now." The coach froze, searching for a lie on Hayato's face.
He bought it. I am out. The genius who scored the ghost goal will fade into rumor.
The stretcher rolled into the tunnel. The scoreboard still read 1-0, but the boy who scored it had already vanished. 3 days later, Hayato stared at the retirement form on his hospital tray table. The pen felt heavier than the ball he'd kicked through time.
With this signature, I erase Hayato. Let the world mourn a dead career. I am burying the ghost goal.
That evening, a news flash showed the league's verdict. Ghost goal attributed to illegal doping. Yoshihiro's dust was a mystery illness.
They buried the curse under a doping scandal. How perfect. The world would rather believe a cheat than a miracle.
In a bathroom lit by a single bulb, Hayato dyed his silver hair dark brown and slid thick glasses over his ancient eyes.
Ren. That's my name now. A quiet nobody. The kind no one remembers.
A week later, a plain van dropped him off at a suburban youth academy. He carried no trophies, only a worn notebook.
No agents, no cameras. Just a patch of grass and a few kids. I can finally breathe.
The director glanced at the fake credentials, nodded indifferently, and mumbled, "You start tomorrow, Coach Ren. Somewhere in a high-security archive, a thermal analyst circled a spike on a printout from that fatal match and scribbled a question mark. Months rolled by. Coach Ren stayed in the background, correcting foot placement and passing lanes with generic advice. One kid stood out, Kaito. All instinct, no brakes, fast enough to trip over his own shadow.
He's a mirror of who I was. If I could just steer him without revealing anything.
During a cutting drill, Kaito skidded on a tight turn and nearly bulldozed a defender. Ren stepped in without thinking.
Shift your weight first, then touch the ball. Let your body sell the fake, not just your foot.
Kaito blinked, tried it. The ball glued to his foot like magic. He'd never felt a move click so fast.
Whoa, Coach? How do you know that? That wasn't in any drill we've done.
Already asking dangerous questions. Keep it vague. Just an old trick from a match I watched once. Don't overthink it. Keep drilling.
The boy grinned and sprinted off, chasing the ball with new hunger. Ren watched, a fragile hope stirring where only silence had lived. Over the following weeks, Ren fed Kaito tiny adjustments, a shoulder drop here, a timing cue there, never enough to betray the depth of his knowledge.
Teaching him the roots of echo touch without naming it. If he ever performs the full move, I'll have to stop.
Kaito's cuts became cleaner, his fakes more deceptive. The boy who used to barrel through defenders now ghosted past them. A regional scout stopped at the academy fence, watching Kaito with a notebook. Whispers of a natural prodigy began to spread. In a cold government office, Agent Tanaka scrolled through archived thermal footage of the Junior Cup final. The screen flickered with a massive energy spike.
This isn't a doping anomaly. It's a temporal disruption. Someone manipulated time on that field.
He ran a cross-reference with a list of all match attendees. One name drew a red circle, Hayato, the retired midfielder who vanished.
Sir, the thermal data shows a localized time freeze. Impossible unless someone survived the curse. I believe the ghost goal player is alive.
Ren, unaware of the storm gathering, watched Kaito juggle effortlessly. A parent's proud smile almost broke his disciplined face.
But if anyone connects this boy's sudden brilliance to me, the agency will find us both. I need to be more careful.
2 days later, a black sedan idled at the academy gate after dark. 2 men in suits stepped out. Inside, the director answered their soft questions about a quiet coach named Ren, calm, reliable, mostly unnoticeable. Ren, passing the admin hallway, froze behind a corner. One voice carried, he heard, former player, Hayato. Vanished years ago, but the boss thinks he's alive.
They found me. They're already here.
He slipped away before the men turned the corner. His pulse a war drum. That night, in his cramped apartment, he stuffed a duffel bag with cash, a burner phone, and the worn coaching notebook.
I promised I'd never run again, but if I stay, they'll tear this place apart and hurt him.
He paused over a photo of Kaito, mid-laugh at practice. Tears fell for the second time in 1,000 years.
By dawn, the plan was set. A single-car crash on the coastal road. No body recovered.
Before sunrise, a rented car veered off the coastal road. The cliff swallowed the wreck, leaving only twisted metal and skid marks. By noon, local news flashed. Youth coach dies in solo accident. The agency read the report and closed their file. 3 days later, the youth team held a small memorial. Kaito clutched the framed photo of Coach Ren, tears streaming.
He was the only one who ever believed in me. Why did he have to die?
The agency filed a single page. Subject Hayato confirmed deceased. Tanaka typed his signature with a grimace. Weeks later, Kaito returned to the locker room. Behind his locker, he found a dusty old notebook. A post-it in shaky handwriting read, "Use these wisely, but never where others can see." He opened the notebook. Hand-drawn diagrams filled the pages. Phantom step, echo touch, shadow weave.
His private training methods. He left them for me.
Kaito clutched the notebook to his chest, a silent promise burning in his eyes. That night, Kaito spread the notebook on his bedroom floor, tracing the diagrams with his finger until dawn.
These moves, they feel like they were invented in another world. No normal coach could create this.
In the moonlit park, he tried the first diagram. Phantom step. His ankle twisted. He stumbled twice, then the fake caught.
I did it! The ghost, after image, Ren's gift. But I need to know, who was he really?
In the agency, Agent Tanaka sat alone with the case file photo of Coach Ren and a yellowed newspaper clipping.
No body, no funeral, and that boy's sudden brilliance. It reeks of surviving the time freeze.
He opened a private notebook and, beneath the closed stamp, wrote a single name, Hayato. Kaito practiced the second move, Echo Touch, until his muscles screamed. Each repetition felt like a secret passed down through centuries.
Whoever Coach Ren was, he poured his life into these pages. I'll guard them with mine.
The boy who would become a legend took one last look at the moonlight, then vanished into the shadow of the goalposts. 7 years later, Kaito stood in a packed professional stadium, his team's emblem on his chest. The whistle blew. He received the ball on the wing. 2 defenders closed. To the world, they were statues. Echo Touch flared. 3 afterimages split the defense apart. Kaito ghosted through and fired. The net bulged. The stadium erupted. On the replay, commentators gasped at the impossible afterimages. Post-match, a reporter shoved a mic at him. How did you learn to move like that?
I had a ghost coach. He only taught me for a few months, but his lessons, they came from another time.
In a dark office, Agent Tanaka froze mid-sip of coffee. Eyes on the live broadcast, the words Ghost Coach echoed.
Ghost Coach. The same wording as our profile on Hayato. The dead don't teach, he's alive.
He slammed down the phone and pulled the old file. Across the stamp, he wrote a single, underlined word. Active. Kaito, unaware of the net tightening, lifted his trophy high, the notebook pressed against his heart beneath the jersey. A week after the final, black-clad agents swarmed Kaito's apartment. They tore through drawers, closets, and even the false bottom of his kit bag. Kaito stood against the wall, cuffed, watching them. His heart raced, but his face remained stone. Agent Tanaka flipped over the last drawer, finding nothing. He turned to Kaito with a cold smile.
Where is the notebook? We know Hayato trained you, cooperate, and your career won't be buried along with him.
I don't know what you're talking about. I trained myself. There's no notebook.
Tanaka's eyes narrowed, but no matter the threat, Kaito's story didn't break. In a quiet park bench across the country, an old man with long white hair folded a newspaper.
They raided his home. He didn't crack. After 1,000 years alone, someone finally protected me.
He allowed himself a single whisper to the breeze, a word meant for no listener.
Good boy.
In the quiet, after the agency left, Kaito noticed a tiny key taped inside the notebook's back cover. He returned to the academy's abandoned storage room, and behind a stack of old jerseys, found a rusted locker. The key turned with a groan. Inside, a single envelope, yellowed and sealed with wax. Kaito, if you read this, I am gone. My real name was Hayato. I was cursed during the Junior Cup final, frozen in time. Inside that curse, I lived 1,000 years. I trained alone in a silent stadium, perfecting the 3 styles to protect this sport from being replicated. I faked my death to keep the forbidden knowledge hidden. Never let anyone know the curse exists.
1,000 years. He sacrificed his entire existence. And I complained about a few interviews?
Tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. He clasped the letter to his chest and sobbed. Destroy this letter, protect the sport. Never let anyone endure what I did. Kaito lit a match. The flame consumed the last words, and with it, the only evidence of a millennium. Decades slipped by. Kaito's hair grayed at the temples, but his whistle never left his neck. He ran a tiny academy, free for any kid who loved the ball more than the win. During a drill, a boy asked, "Coach, how did you learn to move like that?"
I studied under a ghost kid. He trained for 1,000 years, but you'll never find his name in any record.
The boy blinked, but Kaito just tapped his temple. Protect the sport, not the fame. He handed the boy a faded notebook, its cover worn soft by rain and sweat. Inside, 3 diagrams glowed under the edge light: phantom step, echo touch, shadow weave. Miles away, in a park losing its autumn leaves, an old man lowered his phone, a tear tracing his cheek.
The sport is safe. He understood. After a millennium, I am not alone.
He tucked the phone away and let the leaves fall, a faint smile resting on lips that had almost forgotten how. On a nearby park, children chased a football, their laughter a melody he knew by heart. An old man sat alone on a weathered bench. A breathless boy dropped onto the bench. "Are you a coach, sir?" he asked, eyes bright with hope.
No, just someone who once loved the game.
The boy sprinted away, already lost to the chase. The old man's pale blue eyes followed, a quiet smile deepening his lines. He rose, leaving his worn walking stick against the bench, a weight set down at last. Then he stepped into the flow of the evening crowd, silver hair dissolving into dusk like a ghost returning to silence. No one would know that the quiet old man had carried 1,000 years alone to keep the game pure. He became a shape among many, footsteps, silent, heart lighter than it had been in centuries. On the bench, a boy later found the stick and wondered why it felt so warm. The whistle of the next match sounded across the park, and the children played on.